Welcome, Purely Arsenal instant reaction. Arsenal 0, PSG 1. A very disappointing result in the first leg of a semi-final. One of our biggest games for some time, possibly the biggest game at the Emirates, certainly since the last semi-final there, which I think was against Manchester United, which was one that was over before it kind of got going, really. Look, I thought it was always going to be tough. I thought it was always going to be tough when Partey got suspended. Jorginho clearly still out, and I felt technically in midfield that meant we had to shift things around, and there wasn't really a lot of other options other than doing what we did. You know, another option may have been moving Lewis Skelly inwards, but then you change your back four. That's been very reliable in the Champions League, so I understood why he didn't do that. I didn't really understand why he didn't try that at some point, especially when you saw how good Lewis Skelly was up against their midfield. At the moments he did come into midfield, he could handle the press, he could roll their body. That's how we got our best chance of the game, through Martinelli towards the end of the first half. But I think they're so technically gifted, PSG, with Vitinha and Neves and Fabien Ruiz in there, and Dembele dropping deep like he did to get their goal, which I think he did at Anfield too, to be honest. That was what I'd have to rewatch it back, but I'm almost certain he does this thing where he just drops into midfield and then he gets on the end of something. And they deserved their goal. I mean, they were really by far the better team in the early stages of the game. We couldn't even get up the pitch. We couldn't get control of the ball. They were dominant. We couldn't get the ball off them. They had some really good chances, really. I mean, the first chance was a goal, really, I think, from what I remember. It was, a good cut back, and it was bobbling from Kvara, but it's a good hit by Dembele, and it's in off the post. Poor defending, poor marking, have to watch it back. Letting Dembele have that much space in the middle of the park felt poor, and it just felt like Rice and Merino weren't quite understanding where their roles should be. You know, given the fact that neither of them have played in that position for a while, so that was always going to be the worry, I think. My biggest thing to take away from the early point was just they were far better than us technically, and then they moved the ball a lot faster, and they kept winning the second balls, which we're usually very good at. They had another chance through Doué, which was a great save from Raya, who I thought was terrific, to be honest, on the night. He kept us somewhat in the tie. Really, if you watch the game again, what I felt coming from the game was the way we found our way into the game was entirely through Bukayo Saka. I felt after about 30 minutes, he was the one that said, I'm going to take the ball and I'm going to start to try to scare them a little bit. And he did do that, in fairness. He did that. He started creating chances. He started creating overloads, started taking shots. They started getting scared of him. They were scared of him, and he started going to the left wing to pick the ball up. He was just doing whatever he could. And the last 15 minutes, really, in the first half were ours, really. And we had a huge chance through Martinelli, which was a fantastic save from Donnarumma. I don't think we can moan too much about Martinelli there. I think it's a pretty good hit. Second half starts, we start really well. We score, but it's offside. Just marginal offsides, and they did seem to struggle with those free kicks, I felt, and we didn't really take advantage of them after that, which was a bit disappointing. Same with the corners, where I felt they weren't comfortable with them, but we didn't take advantage of it. Another big chance, again, Lewis Skelly created Martinelli's one. I think Rice does brilliant for Trossard's one. I don't think he hits it great. It's a great save, but he doesn't hit it very cleanly. But then, to be honest, they have some really big chances in the second half too. Ramos off the bar, Barcola, who knows how he misses that. Felt the scoreline, even though the XG will say otherwise, flattered us. Felt it flattered us a little bit. I think the XG says 1.6 to 1.1 on their end. But they were 1-0 up from early doors. They didn't have a need to really push and take the handbrake fully off, if you like. They could sit into their block and come out of it when they felt like it. And I don't think we did enough to break them down. I was surprised by the changes, or lack of. I felt Yeri should have been given a little bit more time. I felt Lewis Skelly could have moved into midfield, and you could have brought a Tierney or Zinchenko on at left back. I felt Timber had one of his worst games, so I could understand that. I felt Kvara really troubled him. I know there'll be some issues and concerns with the ref. I thought the Saka decision was the worst one, where Saka gets booked for kicking the ball away, but I felt that was pretty ridiculous foul to give away. I don't think it was a foul, to be honest, on Mendy. But beyond that, I don't know if I can remember. There was a penalty shout, but I don't think there was enough in it, in my opinion. And they were the better side. They were by far the best side we've played. Obviously, we played them before, but we haven't played the side like this. They've got Kvara now. They didn't start Dembele in the last one. They had a couple of other players they didn't start. And we're more depleted. I mean, in this game, you could argue we're missing our whole spine. in Gabriel, Partey and Havertz. They're all three of those players would start every game for us. So, you know, I certainly don't want to make excuses, but it did feel like they were a level above us. And I've watched PSG at PSG, and they're no joke. I mean, if they really go at it, they should have beaten Liverpool about 4-0. I know Liverpool came away with 1-0, and at the time everyone was saying it was a masterclass until they got knocked out. But they should have lost about 4-0 in that game. I mean, Alisson was incredible. And they just don't look like they can be stopped over there. They absolutely battered Villa as well, but Villa got an early sort of smash and grab goal. But beyond that, PSG should have won by more. I just think the task and it's a really tall order. So we'll have to see. Follow us at Purely Arsenal FP. Comment, like, subscribe. Disappointing, but let's hope it's not over yet.